Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Bankroll Your Brains Thursdays. I'm Nicole Roberts Jones, the Bankroll Your Brains expert. Excited to be here with you for another Thursday, pouring insight into you. So, our goal here every Thursday is really to help you live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be, and really to understand a couple of different things, three subject areas we come from when we talk about Bankroll Your Brains. Number one, what is your brands? What's the one thing you were created to do or be? What some people call purpose, some people call niche, some people say dominion. Well, not some people, the Bible says dominion, right? The second area is the value tied to it. So many of us either overlook it, don't understand the value it has, not just for you, but for the people that need you. And then anything in between from there. And then the third area, of course, is how do you create multiple streams of revenue from it? So today I'm excited because I feel like we're bumping up against number two and number three as we talk today. And so before I start, y'all know if you're with me every week, you know how I am. Don't come in the house and I speak. That's what my grandmother would be, finding a twitch for you if you came in the house and then you didn't speak. So come in, tell me name and where you're from. And as we share, and by the way, if you ever see me look over here, I'm looking for my comments on my iPad because sometimes the comments don't come here in StreamYard for whatever reason. So with that said, listen, a couple of things I want you to do is you come in and you listen to our conversation today. If you have questions, post them. Our expert will answer them live. If she says something that resonates with you, I want you to give her some heart emojis, or if it's really, really something good, give her some fire emojis, right? Hey, Cassandra in New Jersey, welcome. Listen, hey, Nicole, I like your name, girl, from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Hi, Sean. Hey, hey. So if she says something that steps on your toes, say ouch. Go ahead and say it. But really, our goal as we come here every week is not to come for who you already are, it's to come for who you have not yet become. So grab your pen, grab your paper, and let's get started with today's conversation. So let me introduce to you our expert of the hour. Her name is Dr. Oneeka Williams, and we're going to talk about the power of positivity builds legacy. Like, how will you be remembered? So Dr. Oneeka Williams is a urologic, got to say that slow, urologic, because that's a tongue twister, surgeon at Emory Urology in Concord, Massachusetts. She is also an assistant clinical professor of urology at Tufts Medical Center. Now, she specializes in female and general urology, but that's not it. You think that'd be enough, right? In addition to that, she has created what she calls her 5 habits of positivity framework to help others approach challenges from a positive perspective. And listen, she currently partners with Scholastic Publishing as one of the mentors, thought leaders, spokespersons, and subject matter experts for educational book collection called Rising Voices Empowering Girls in STEM. And that's still not it. She also speaks around the country from a book series that she authored called Dr. Dee Dynamo. Love Dr. Dee. You're going to hear about her today. A super surgeon on the go whose magical hands and powers of positivity integrate STEM concepts, creative venture, and literacy. Now, Dr. Oneeka is the 2014 recipient of the Science Club for Girls Catalyst Award for Excellence in Diversity in Science, the 2016 EV Kids Youth Champion Award, the 2018 GBS National Council of Negro Women of Courage and Conviction Award. I can go on and on. She also is the vice chair of the board of advisors for the Museum of Science. And guess what? That's not even everything she has and everything she's done. She uses her creativity, expertise, and experience as a surgeon and award-winning author to care for patients, positively educate and advocate as she breaks down barriers and ushers everyone she touches into whole health and a more empowered mindset. Y'all ready? Please help me welcome Dr. Oneeka. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
So excited to have you here. So, hello, Debbie and Sandra, and she's tagging Sandra and Rex. Welcome, welcome. So, let's get right into the conversation. Again, I want to remind you if you have questions, comments, thoughts, please share them as we are live. Even if you come back and watch the replay, I still want you to comment, right? Cassandra says, "Welcome, Doc." So, with that said, how does a surgeon get into the business of positivity?
I just love that question, Nicole. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be on this platform. And hi to everyone out there. I hope you guys don't be shy, speak up.
Mhm.
I just love that question because, it's so often that when we look at ourselves and when people look at us, they may see us in just one dimension. whether you feel that you are defined by a challenge that you had, the family that you came from, where you grew up, what you do, and there's this very unidimensional type of perspective. And so, for me as a surgeon, it is really important to bring my whole self, and not just the sum of all of my parts, but really a multiplication. We are so much more than just the sum of the parts. And so
Mm,
that is the first thing, is to really be able to secure that perspective that we are much more than just one thing that people think define us. Secondly, there is a significant connection between positivity and health. And so
mm,
my individual experience as a surgeon, first of all, not just a surgeon, but as a black surgeon, because we know that communities of color do better with
yeah.
physicians who look like them, when there's
Yeah.
concordancy between the patient and the doctor. And that alone just speaks to a positive attitude and a positive expectation of when they walk into the room, what type of relationship they're going to have. So,
Right.
as a surgeon, I know that my patients' outcomes, their compliance, how they're dealing with their issues, totally depends on their attitude. And so, there is that
Mm, that's
intersection.
good.
And then the
Hmm.
third thing is that I myself, as a female, black female urologic surgeon, there's 0.001% of all physicians in this country look like me. And
Right.
so, what that means is that I have been the only person in the room in almost all professional experiences that I have had, starting from the time that I was 14 when I decided that I wanted to do medicine.
Right.
And I was an all
Wait, wait,
girls
but let me
school.
pause you there. How many of you guys have been in rooms where you're the only one in the room, right? I want you to get that this does apply to you. You don't have to be a surgeon to get this. How many of you guys have often found yourself being the only one? Because we on Black Doctors, so come on now, being the only person of color in any room you walk in. I want you to say me. You're talking to me. That's me. Post it as she continues to share. Go ahead, Dr.
Yeah,
Oneeka.
so real. And so when you walk into the room as the only one, how you show up completely begins to define your experience. And so, what
Right.
I have become very, very clear about is that as I have this mission of educating, elevating people above their circumstances, and empowering them to take action, is that the power of our stories have healing potential. It
Hmm.
has the potential to empower us. It has the potential to allow us to connect to the
Right.
power of who we are. And so, using my own personal story, I have come to understand that it has been my positive attitude. It has been my positive set of expectations. It has been my positivity process that has allowed me to be successful. And so, that is why, as a surgeon, I am completely connected to this work and committed to the work of positivity and the importance of positivity in our well being, mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional.
That's so good. That's so good. And I want you guys to see it. She's sitting in her office and right behind her says laugh, right? So, and I love that about you, Dr. Onika. I love that. And she's my girlfriend, so I'm gonna say Onika, but y'all have to say Dr. Onika. So I love that about you because you bring positivity to everything you do. So do you believe or do you think that we are born with positivity or is it something that we learn over time?
Well, the science and the that it's
Uh-uh.
kind of 50-50.
Hmm.
50 that you're born with this kind of predisposition, and then 50% is your environmental experience, that you can develop it over time, that you can train yourself to be more positive. And I want you
Mm,
to know that positivity has really exploded. I've been doing this work of positivity for the last 15 years. I created my
mm,
girl super surgeon, Dr. Didi Dynamo, who lives on the island of positivity. I created her 15 years ago and published my first book 8 years ago. But she lives on this island of positivity where she comes with a can-do attitude. But it has really exploded over the past probably 10 years, to the extent this is the most recent Time
mm.
publication,
Oh,
right?
I love that.
The power
Yes.
of positive thinking, because
Right.
more and more data, more and more the science is understanding that our brain is really wired for positivity. Our brain is wired for optimism. Can you
Hmm.
imagine, as we think about the generations of, whether you have an evolutionary theory, whether you believe in creation, whether it is this evolution of who we are,
Right.
when you get up the next day and you decide that I am actually going to live life despite the challenges, you have to come at that from an optimistic point of view. Your brain has set you to, I can do this. And so
Mm-hmm.
the fact that we have had generations that have made it through, I mean, we know just the
Mm-hmm.
African American experience, we
Mm-hmm.
know the hardship. But the fact that we continue to show up means that there is something in our brain that makes us think that tomorrow is going to be better than yesterday.
Mm.
Tomorrow is going to be better than today. And that's what keeps us going. So our brain is
Right.
absolutely wired for
You know, I
positivity.
think I like to think of positivity like a muscle, right? And don't laugh at
Mhm.
me because Onika knows I struggle with working out. So I like to think of positivity like a muscle. And if you don't exercise it, it'll go into atrophy, right? And so the other thing I know for sure in my own life is we're born, I believe too, that we're born with a positivity, but over time things happen to us, people do things to us that shifts our mindset to then a part of it gets into this negative space. It's like, how do we go back to or find our way back to positivity when there's negative things all around us, things that people have done and that make us now not believe in who we be?
That is so important, Nicole. That is really the crux of the matter. And
Hmm.
really and truly, like everything else, it takes a discipline.
Yeah.
And positivity, we focus on the end point. And so people will talk about toxic positivity, where they basically feel as if it means that you just put on these rose colored glasses, you live in this space of denial, you don't face up to the fact that you're going to have difficult situations, and you don't even take the time to process those, that you're living in this utopia, and that is not realistic nor is it pragmatic. In
Mm,
actuality, if we think about positivity as a process, and we
mm,
create a set of guidelines that we adhere to, that we practice. So, like you said, it's like a muscle. And as a matter of fact, I've just written a book about that called Not Today Negativity, because you have
yes.
totally identified the challenges that we as human beings have. We think about 18,000, 12,000 to 18,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of those are negative,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And it's getting worse because the media totally thrives on negativity. Some
Yeah.
kind of a way, negativity drives interest, it drives sales, and so we're bombarded with it. The digital media, the access, the technology now means that it is so hard to even separate from
Hmm.
all of the negative information. And so we can't seem to get away with it. So get away from it. So what is the process by which we can discipline ourselves that every negative situation we can somehow change a perspective around it, so that instead of our
Hmm.
problems, instead of us serving
Right.
our problems serve us.
Mm,
Problems have a purpose. And if we
mm,
look at our life in that way, how we are strengthened, how we learn, how we are increase our faith, how we increase our ability to access our resources, if we have this process of thinking and approaching our problems and the negativity in our lives, if we develop this ability to literally say, not today, negativity. And and the reason that is important, even for me every day, one of the things that you might have seen trending a couple of years ago when there was a doctor on a plane, and there was a patient that had an issue, and the air hostesses challenged whether she was actually a doctor because she was a black woman.
right.
And so it was what a doctor looks like. And I get this kind of response almost every day as a black
Hmm.
female urologic surgeon, which is a very, very small percentage, as I've already said. People will look at me and they think that I don't belong there. And so I
Right.
could use that when I walk into a room and the guy looks at me like deer in the headlights, like, who are you and why are you here? I could literally immediately get offended that, well, why doesn't he think I'm a surgeon? Like, what is this
Hmm.
all about? Like, what is this unconscious bias?
Right.
Or I can confront the fact that his response is based in the fact, in the data, that really and truly, there's only 0.001% of all physicians that look like me. So when he thinks that I don't look like a surgeon,
Hmm.
he's actually like a urologic surgeon, especially, he's right. So I
Hmm.
have to now take the opportunity to re educate him, to expose him to a different narrative, so that when
Right.
he sees a black woman who walks into a surgical suite in her white coat, he doesn't question that it is possible that she
Right.
is right where she belongs. And so for
Mm,
me, I think about, if there's a problem, I have it a positivity number one. I believe, because our belief system is everything. What do we believe? Do you believe that there's a solution? Number two, if there's a limit, I am going to turn that limit into the opportunity. So I'm not
Ooh,
looking at my
that's
limits
good.
as,
That's
oh my
good.
God, this is going to beat me down. I'm like, okay, this is here for a reason. God does not put us in places where He does not expect and plan for us to be. So, what am I supposed to take away from this? How is this going to empower me to rise up above this circumstance and to
Right.
put and extract all of the power? I'm not holding on to all of the negative things. When we think about negative and positives,
Mm-hmm.
negativity takes away from us,
Yeah.
positivity adds from us. So, why do we
That's
want to
good.
constantly be in situations where things are just constantly taken away, dragging us
Mm-hmm.
down, depleting us? We have to stand up, rise up, walk in our unlimited power. I'm a big
Yeah.
proponent of the unlimited
Ooh,
because what
wait,
it
wait. I
means,
gotta stop you because look, she going into a whole nother thing. And what keeps coming to me as you're talking, look, and this is good. I hope y'all are taking notes. And y'all are silent, so that means that she's so good look, if you have a question, I know you're busy trying to take notes. Please make sure we got 15 more minutes. I want to make sure y'all get your questions in. So listen, as you were talking and sharing about that person, and typically, now I'm gonna be honest, typically, we get labeled the angry black woman because we're upset that they are putting us in a box. I love how you shifted that. And here's what came to my mind when you shifted it. A negative and a negative doesn't actually equal a positive, right? So if they're negative and you're negative, it's not nothing good is going to come out of that. However, if you shift that situation, I love that a problem can become a positive, right? If you shift that situation to say, how can I be to show him what's possible? Or show that person who do I need to be in this moment to show him, right? Instead of being an angry black woman that he probably saw in a music video or somewhere that stereotyped us for that person, right? And as you were saying that, I remember my husband, who is an executive African American man and has a PhD. He's a physicist. Okay, again, small part of our population. First of all, it's the small number of physicists in the world, and then a nerve to be a black man that's a physicist. Okay, but he works in sales. So I'm sharing that because his boss, when he showed up, looked at him and said, "So do you play basketball?" And Daryl said it took all of him not to say, "Oh, because I'm black, I'm supposed to play basketball." And then he realized that it had nothing to do with his race. His boss loves basketball, and he was trying to put together a basketball team. He was asking everybody, black, white, yellow, whatever, right? And so I think it's really imperative that we take the time to shift because if we put negative in the atmosphere, it makes it worse.
yeah. And what you said, Nicole, that is so important. There are two things that you said that are totally critical. Number one is, are you giving away your power? When we allow people to define our reaction, we are
Mm,
literally giving away our power.
that's
And
so
so,
good.
you know, I walk in my own power, my God given power, and I will not give it away. I will not abdicate to allow someone else to now define how I am going to behave. So that is the first
Mm,
thing. The second thing, when I first initially, when you talked about your husband's experience, is the power of story. Because our
mhm,
stories, essentially, our life is like a fabric. It is a weaving together of all of our stories that define how we think, define how
mhm.
we show up in the world, define how we react. And
Right.
so I was on call this weekend, and I walked into the room of a very, kind of a crotchety old guy, a Caucasian male, and I was supposed to operate on him. And the long and short of it is, he decided that he didn't want me to operate on him. And so I could immediately have taken that as oh, his implicit bias, his unconscious bias, this is a microaggression.
Mhm.
Instead, I approach things with empathy and with curiosity because everyone has a story.
Yeah.
So I want to know before I get my kind of feathers all, ruffled.
Mhm,
Let me really understand what his story is. Let me understand his perspective before
mhm.
I now bring my own story that we are constantly, right, affected by because we know that these things exist, the
Right.
microaggressions, the macroaggressions, the racist policies, the systemic racism. It colors our lens, it clouds our lens in many ways. And so we bring our own story to how we interpret things. So I said,
Mhm.
I approach with empathy and compassion and
Right.
curiosity. What is his story? And
That's so
so
good.
I was able to identify his story and to see that it really had nothing to do with him not wanting me as a black woman to operate on him. He came contextually with a whole lot of other experiences in this medical framework. And so
Mm,
then I could then take his hand and say, you know what? I understand. And
mm,
right now, because this is not a super emergency, we can wait. You could wait for your regular urologist. If this was an emergency, you wouldn't have a choice. But I
right.
understand. And I also was able to say to him at 87, the fact that you could process, that you could remember all of what happened to you and how it applies to this situation and how you might want to think about this differently. At 87, man, I'm like, you are amazing. So I took
Mm,
control of that entire situation,
that's so
didn't
good.
leave with anybody feeling, negative emotions, and he could walk away from that, not, right, reinforcing the angry black woman stereotype that he has probably come to know, and have a
Hmm.
whole shift in his perspective so that the next time he
Mm,
meets me and he needs
mm.
surgery, I can guarantee you that he would have no problem having me operate on him.
That's so good. So tell us, this is so good. I hope y'all are walking away with some nuggets. And as you do get nuggets, please share. I put up a couple minutes ago that Beverly said these are gifts, and Paulette said exactly. So with that said, tell us the legacy of positivity you hope to leave this world with.
Legacy is so important, and you've already said it's a stamp on the future. It is what is your contribution to future generations. It is
Right.
what allows you to live your life like it matters.
Hmm.
And because we have, there's so many things that, certainly as communities of color, that we deal with. When we look at disparities in health and we think about what are all of the chronic stressors, the weathering that creates these physiologic vulnerabilities that make us more predisposed to, all of these various kind of chronic illnesses that make us have worse diseases like breast
Right.
cancer, prostate cancer, that made us have worse experiences with COVID. So
Yeah.
many of the layers of the social determinants of health and all of those external factors that weather us. My goal, because the science is clear, positivity, people who have a positivity process, people who think positively, people who have a positive attitude live
Mm-hmm.
longer, they have less hypertension, they have less depression, they have
Yeah.
less anxiety, they have better relationships, they have more fulfillment at work. I mean, there's so many facets of well-being that are affected by a positive attitude. And
Yeah.
so for me, it is really important to create this legacy that helps to take the power away. We know the external environments. We're gradually working on dismantling those things. But
Right.
we also have an internal power. We
Mm,
have an ability to kind of take a deep breath, not allow our blood pressure to go up because somebody said something stupid to us,
right.
taking our power, allowing us to have the power, and being able to have this internal process that prevents us from getting caught up in this tailspin whenever we experience the inevitable micro and macro aggressions. And if we can
Hmm.
work on this internal milieu of positivity and be able to have this practice of mindfulness and meditation and what I call positivity pauses, because every time you press a pause button, you literally are able to just stop the stressors, you're able to stop the onslaught, you're able to stop the bombardment, you're able to
Hmm.
re-zero. And so when I talk about my Not Today Negativity book and the legacy, first of all, of sharing our stories. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many times that we keep our stories hidden. We don't
Hmm.
tell our
Hmm.
stories because there's shame attached to it, because there's
Right.
some type of embarrassment attached to it. We don't share our stories, but really and truly, our power resides in our stories. And
Yeah.
so people have these, it also frees you, it frees others, it liberates others, and it does
Yeah.
create the ability to be more healthy. And so my legacy of positivity is really meant to create this framework that gives people the understanding and the tools to be able to apply these positivity principles in whatever environment they're in, and to see the
So good.
ripple effect as to how it will
Hmm.
create healthier, more positive, emotional, mental, but physically healthy, people, and to be able to really show that we have the opportunity through this unlimited reservoir, right?
Hmm.
If you are a Christian, you know that there are no limits in God. And if we are children of God and He is giving us everything that He has, it
Right.
means that our reservoir is unlimited. And so if we
Ooh,
walk in that knowledge, we walk in that power, we walk in that understanding, then
yeah.
we have the ability to chart our courses, to chart our life, to how we think, how we believe in ourselves, how we practice, how we show up in the world in a way that empowers us, that elevates us above our circumstances. And we
Mm,
can absolutely do it. What we think, what we tell ourselves, what we believe
yeah.
defines everything.
Oh, everything, everything. I always say what you think about, you bring about. So listen, you just heard her talk about her book, her framework. So she has a gift, but before I put it on the screen, only the first five of you hear me when I say this. So those of you that are live, thank God you came live. The bonuses of being here live, right? The first five of you, listen, she's giving away a copy of her book to the first five of you that send an email. You see it on your screen. Oneeka at drdydynamo.com. The first five of you, tell them about your book.
My book is called Not Today Negativity: Five Habits of Positivity to Cope, Hope, and Be Well in Tough Times. And it is really a collection of my personal journey, because part of what Nicole asked in the beginning is, how is a surgeon, like, how do you become involved in positivity? It is because I have been up and I have been down. And there have been days when it's been hard for me to crawl out of bed. And people will look at me on the surface and they will make decisions about who I am that makes it seem like they can't do the same thing that I'm doing. Now, we're
Right,
all
right,
called
right.
to different things. We're called to walk our path. But we all take a journey of challenges and ups and downs. And so I
Mhm,
want to be
mhm.
able to use my stories, the stories of my patients, to empower my audience to know that it
Yeah,
is possible, that you can take these principles, you can
yeah,
take your stories, and you can weave them in ways that empower you. And
yes.
because you mentioned the Dr. Dini Dynamos, because I am a creative, all of my frameworks are based on a way of visualizing, whether you're
Right,
thinking
not
of
right.
treasure chest, your joy tank, your slingshot. So there are ways to really have these concrete ways that you can see
Mhm.
yourself constructing this scaffold that you can
Right.
then layer your problems and your challenges
Hmm.
on and be
Love it.
able every time to
Love
come
it.
out of it knowing that you will have a positive outcome. And so there are
That's so good.
practices and
That's so good.
exercises to help take you on that journey to really tapping into your unlimited self. So the whole
So that's so
purpose
good.
of this book
Mhm.
is so that you can, it's to educate you. I'm all about teaching and educating.
Right,
Every time I
right,
talk, I'm trying to teach you something.
right,
I'm helping
right.
you to elevate above your circumstances. I'm helping you to be empowered to take action. Because if you're just sitting here, it doesn't even matter. It
Yep. So
empowers you
listen.
to take action so you can achieve
Mhm.
whole health, pursue your dreams, and live life
Yes.
without limits.
So good. Now listen, you can see how passionate she is about this. So listen, I see some of you guys are writing your email in the comments. So write it in the comments. Send an email to this email address that's on your screen. First five of you, Oneeka at drdydynamo.com. Now, before we close, because guess what? We're at the end of our episode. Those of you that just want to learn more about Dr. Oneeka, you can learn more on her website, droneekawilliams.com. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your pathway to positivity. Thank you for being an advocate and being a light on our path so that we all can look break through the limits that could keep us from all that's possible for us. I appreciate you, girl.
You're welcome. Thank you all for joining in, and thank you, Nicole, for having me. This has been wonderful. Keep up the good
Yay.
work.
Thank you,
You're
girl.
doing an amazing job as well.
So with that, that has been another episode of Bankroll Your Brains Thursdays. Listen, every Thursday I come. Some Thursdays I teach, and most Thursdays I bring an expert in. If there's a topic you want to hear us share, send an email. Send an email with the topic you're interested in, whether it's around what's your purpose, what's your genius, what's that brilliance, how do you create a business around it, whether it's the value tied to it, whether it is how do you create multiple streams of revenue from it? Send those topic questions you have to byb@blackdoctor.org. Listen, all week long, I am giving tools and tips in my Instagram page. So make sure you follow me on Instagram at nrobertsjones.com. And then come and join me next Thursday. I'm here every Thursday from 12 to 12:30 for Bank Roll Your Brains Thursday. So until I see you next week, have a phenomenal rest of your week. Bye, y'all.